The first time Sofia Alvarez walked through the tall white gates of the Gregory estate, she felt as though she'd stepped into a world built to keep people like her out. The sprawling colonial mansion sat on Oak Street, tucked behind manicured hedges and guarded by stone lions that stared with silent disapproval. At 23, Sofia had been cleaning houses for almost 5 years. She didn't mind the work. What she minded was the way some people looked at her, as if she were invisible until they needed something. But work was work, and the Gregorys paid well. Richard Gregory was a wealthy property developer in his mid-50s, with salt and pepper hair, a permanent tan, and a smile that never reached his eyes. His wife, Clarissa, was often away on business, expensive vacations in Miami, as Sofia quickly learned. Her first weeks were uneventful. She polished silver, vacuumed imported rugs, scrubbed marble counters that never seemed to get dirty. Richard would sometimes linger in the kitchen doorway, asking about her life in a way that felt more invasive than curious. She ignored it. People like him always asked questions they didn't need answers to. Chapter 2: The night everything changed. It happened on a rainy Thursday. Clarissa was in Europe. Sofia had been asked to work late because Richard was hosting a business dinner. The dinner ended early. The guests left. The wine didn't. She was in the study, dusting the shelves, when she heard the door click shut behind her. The rest was a blur. The smell of his cologne thick in the air, his voice a low threat disguised as a whisper. She remembered the heavy press of fear in her chest, the way her mind screamed while her body froze. When it was over, she stumbled into the rain, her clothes clinging to her skin. She walked home without feeling her feet touch the ground. Sofia didn't tell the police. She'd heard enough stories to know how they went. Rich man, poor maid, whose word would matter? She told her cousin Maria, who wrapped her in a blanket and said, "Mija, we'll make him pay." But Sofia didn't want justice. She wanted revenge. Chapter 3: Seeds of a Plan. Richard thought she would quit. He thought fear would drive her away. Instead, Sofia returned the next morning, her face calm, her voice steady. That rattled him. She began watching him, studying his routines. She learned he had a temper with his business partners. He gambled, but not in casinos. In shady backroom poker games where debts were paid in cash. She learned his marriage wasn't as solid as he liked to pretend. Clarissa had her own discretions. Most importantly, Sofia discovered his obsession: control. He liked to be the one with secrets, the one who held the knife by the handle. So she decided to give him a secret he couldn't bury. Chapter 4: The Trap. Over the next 2 months, Sofia planted small seeds. She let Richard overhear accidental phone calls about a cousin who was a private investigator. She mentioned that she knew people who fixed problems quietly. She acted nervous around him, but not broken, like she was hiding something. One day, she accidentally left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was in another room. On the screen, a text message from her cousin Maria lit up. "Got the footage. He's done." It was fake, of course, but Richard didn't know that. From then on, he started making small offers: extra cash if she kept quiet, a used car for her trouble. Sofia played along, taking the money but never giving him certainty. She wanted him to sweat. The Gregory estate had a massive wine cellar, kept under lock and key. Sofia knew he often brought his business partners down there to impress them with his vintage collection. One Thursday, she told him she needed to speak privately. She led him to the cellar, saying she wanted to make a deal. He followed, eager to regain control. The cellar door was heavy. The hinges groaned as she swung it open. Inside, she had already prepared everything: a small hidden camera aimed at the table, a recorder tucked behind the wine racks. She started the conversation by pretending to accept a large payoff in exchange for forgetting what had happened. But as he began talking, boasting about his influence and mocking the idea that anyone would believe her, she let him dig his own grave. Every word was captured. Then she dropped the real bomb. She told him she had already sent copies of his recorded confession along with details of his illegal poker games and tax evasion to a friend who would leak them if anything happened to her. Richard's face drained of color. For the first time, he looked small. Sofia didn't need to go to the police. She knew the better weapon was humiliation. She waited until the Gregorys hosted their annual charity gala, a glittering night attended by the city's wealthiest families, local politicians, and journalists. In the middle of Richard's speech, the massive projector screen flickered. The video from the wine cellar began to play. His voice filled the room, slurred with arrogance, admitting to everything: the assault, the threats, the bribes. the illegal games. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Clarissa froze, her champagne glass trembling in her hand. A reporter's camera flashed. Someone screamed for the AV team to cut the feed, but by then, dozens of phones were recording. Richard's career ended before the night was over. His company severed ties, his partners turned their backs, and by morning, his face was plastered across every news outlet in the state. The Gregory estate went up for sale within weeks. Debt collectors circled like vultures. Clarissa filed for divorce. Richard tried to track down who had set him up, but there was no trail. Sophia had made sure of that. One day, as she walked past Oak Street, she saw him standing on the front steps, his expensive suit rumpled, his hair unkempt. Their eyes met. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply kept walking, the sound of her footsteps echoing against the empty street. Inside her chest, something uncoiled. It wasn't joy. It wasn't even satisfaction. It was freedom. Epilogue: months later, Sophia had her own small cleaning business, with clients who respected her work. She never told anyone the full story of what happened, only that she had once worked for a man who thought he owned the world, and that he'd learned otherwise. When Maria asked if it was worth it, Sophia only said, "Some people deserve to burn. I just gave him the match."